like to say congratulations to Ferg Devins on receiving the Honor 150 Award as a part of Manitoba's 150th anniversary celebration. Ferg, you have been nominated by the Souris and Glenwood Golf Course for the exceptional work you've done throughout the many years here, not only in southwestern Manitoba, but in Souris. Congratulations, Ferg.
Thank you.
Can you tell us, Ferg, the committee had awarded you with a $500 bonus as a part of the awards that you've received here. Where did you delegate the $500 gift?
First of all, I thank the golf course for sponsoring me, or nominating me. And the $500 was donated to the Souris Railway Museum, which is my present feature right now.
Ferg, let's review your story about all the years that you volunteered. You are 92 years of age today, but life changed for you at the age of 9. Can you tell us what happened?
Well, I'll be 92 in November. Well, at age 9, we were practicing at school for track and field with competition with two other schools in Yorkton, Saskatchewan. And I woke up one morning and I was stiff in all the joints of my body. And they thought I had rheumatic fever. And I went delirious, and the doctor said if I went delirious again, I would have to go to the hospital. So I was 101 days in Yorkton Hospital before they realized what my problem was. My right hip had gone out of the socket, being pushed by a osteomyelitis abscess, which starts in the marrow of the bone. And I went to St. Boniface for an operation and came home and was in a cast for 4 months from my top of my chest to the toes of my right leg with a bar across to my left knee, and I could either lay on my stomach or on my back. And through the years, like penicillin had been invented in 1920s, but they hadn't had it on the market till after the Second World War, when shrapnel wounds were treated with penicillin. And then I had some penicillin, and it took a while to overcome this abscess in your body. And I was 69 years with that infection in my body, and I had an infections doctor in Winnipeg, who said he thought he could cure me of this infection, and so he put me on antibiotics, a strict schedule for 6 months, and lo and behold, when they tested me for this osteomyelitis again, the fever was gone out of my body.
How did this impact your love of sports as a youth?
Well, my mother, she won a medal for track and field for racing in grade 9 at the Yorkton school, and she had to quit school to look after her mother, who had diabetes, and so she didn't further her. But when I was 6 years old, she was 26, and we used to race down the road in our, when I was a 6-year-old, and I think that encouraged me to go into the sports.
So was your involvement limited because of after your osteomyelitis?
Oh yes, yes. They told me that previous to the operation, they spent hours talking to my mom and dad what I would be like, and they said the only sports that I could handle is curling or golf, and those were both expensive sports at the time. So I was 35 before I started golfing, and I forget when I guess in the 1960s when I started curling.
But that never stopped you from helping out with things like ball and hockey, is that right?
No. Funny story is, I decided to go to a Little League meeting in Surrey one night, and Betty, my wife, said, "Don't you become a coach?" So I didn't, and she said when I came home from the meeting, "I suppose you're coaching?" And I said, "No, I'm not." And I didn't tell her anything about the meeting. And Red Sanderson, the editor of the Surrey Plain Dealer, he had headlines in the next issue, "Devins, president of Little League." So, but it was easier than coaching. It was like on Little League nights that they were playing ball, I just drove around from ball diamond to ball diamond and see what was going on.
How did that go over at home?
It was all right.
And you spent about 10 years helping out with coaching and being on the board of the ball team about there, right?
Yes, I have a picture here of Little League team. I'm not sure if you want me to show it or not. I'll tell you later about the final game. That team won the championship for Manitoba in 1962, and they were the 12-year-olds. There's a long story with that, and if you look at the website, the Surrey Railway website, under stories, there's a title that says Surrey wins Manitoba Championship minor ball or something like that. And you can read the story in there. It'll save a lot of time of talking here. But I want to mention one last thing. Mark Fisher was the pitcher from Nesbitt that was on my Little League team at Nesbitt. And the other three boys were from Wawanesa, from our league, and I was told by Harry Down that his brother brought a team from Brandon out to play our little league team at Nesbitt, and he said, Jim Down said, you've got the best pitcher in Manitoba. So I contacted Gordy Lyle, and Bob Sanderson, who were coaching this team in Souris, and we picked up those 4 players. Now, at the end of the story, I did not tell, we won each game with Mark pitching, and the reason being is that Grant Everard had broken his ankle in 3 places in the spring, and we hesitated to put him in. But this part is not in the story. Morden was in the finals and Souris, and Morden came to Souris, and they were used to a home run fence behind them, and we beat the heck out of them at Souris. And when we went to go to Morden, it was, if we lost the first game, we had to play the second game at Morden 45 minutes later. Now this is not in the story that I have in the website. I mentioned to Gordy Lyle that maybe we should play Everard the first game and save Mark in case we lost the first game, because Morden would have used their best pitcher in the first game at Morden, and Mark, we'd have him for backup. And Mark was a good ball player, a good home run hitter, and I talked to Mark out in the field. I said, don't let your nose get out of joint. We're going to use you for backup if we lose this first game. And that is how we won, because they were limited to how many innings they could play in a week, and Morden would be playing their best pitcher. So that doesn't tell you in the website, but Mark had to go in and pitch the second game at Morden. Now, Greg Leachman was playing first base, and the reason because he had a good arm on him. He was used to playing third base. When we won, Greg Cameron, the catcher, had dropped the ball, and so he had to throw it to first base. And Greg came in to hug Mark on his pitching, and Gary Davidson on the second base saved the game by running over to first base and catching the ball from Greg Cameron. So Gary is in the picture. And Gary is owner of the Portland Winterhawks junior hockey team. Some of those other fellas went on to make names of themselves. I'm happy to say that Gordy Lyle, the coach, and Mark Fisher and Grant Everard and Greg Cameron are now in the Manitoba Baseball Hall of Fame from what they did later on in life. That's about all I have to say.
And at the time you were their coach, what age range were they under?
12 and under.
Oh. So you had a very long impact on these young men's lives.
Oh, you bet, yeah.
That's good. Well as baseball, you spent a fair amount of time in curling, didn't you?
Yes, I don't know what to say there. When I went to Nesbitt, they already, as a station agent, they already had me on a rink, and they had Betty on a rink. So this was small community, you know, and maybe 75 people or so. And I was on Earl McKellar's rink, and he taught me quite a bit about curling. Later on, when I was in Boissevain, I came up with the suggestion that we have an all-star bonspiel, and we sent out invitations to some of the best curlers in Manitoba, and they accepted, and it was invitational, and it was a tremendous success.
And that bonspiel was called?
Bonspiel of Champions.
Right, out of Boissevain.
Yeah.
And it ran for several years, did it not?
I don't know how many years it ran. When they started to change stuff around, that's when it started to, the curlers, they couldn't get the curlers. Now, when I moved to Suez, Len Haskett and Bernice and I were at the Legion, and we were out on an acreage west of town, 5.5 miles, and they came out at supper time with me, and Len said, "Why don't you start a bonspiel of Champions in Suez?" And I said, "Well, I think all the men's bonspiels, big spiels, are finished by that time. There isn't room for another one, but we could try a 32 rink ladies bonspiel." So that's when the idea came up of the Bonnie Lassie, and we started the Bonnie Lassie bonspiel in 1973. We had quite a time getting that started. When we started the one in Boissevain, it was illegal to send raffle tickets through the post office. And we were doing it a different way. I'm not going to divulge what way, but
Okay.
Anyway, they brought in a law stating that if you went to your municipal office, you could get a number, a permit number for having this raffle. And at that time of starting the Bonnie Lassie, we had a different method of sending the tickets out, but there was a new municipal secretary treasurer came into Suez, and he was not interested because it was a time taker on his business as being municipal clerk, and so we managed to send them a different way, but I went to the tickets were worth $120, and we charged $100 entry fee in the Bonnie Lassie. And the editor of the Plain Dealer said, "Well, you can't get a number for this, give me a number." And I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Give me a number." So I said it was 73, make it 73-1, and that was their permit number. And about 3 years later, like the next year was 74-1, and the next year was 75-1. Somebody from the Lionel organization in Souris wanted to hold a raffle in Brandon at the mall. And they said, how did you get your number? And I said, you just make it up. And she said, what? And I said, well, I'll tell you what you should do is you get the Lions and the Lionels and the Kinsmen and the Kinets and the Royal Purple and the Elks Lodge to go as a delegation to a chamber or to a town council meeting and say, why can't we get it? And that's how they got it.
Mm.
But I don't want to mention names and get anybody into trouble, but some of them are in heaven or elsewhere now.
So you spent a lot of years curling, but as well, you and your wife were both involved in curling over the years, right?
Well, out of the Bonnie Lassie, Betty won the first Bonnie Lassie with her rink, and then they went into the provincial playoffs, and they won the Manitoba championship. But Betty dropped herself down to second, and Joan Moak was the skip, and Jean Hunter Moffat was the third. Betty was the second, and Karen Dunbar today, Karen Anderson, was the lead. And they won that in 1975 in the provincial, and went to Moncton, New Brunswick to curl in the Dominion, and they didn't do as well there. And then in 75, when they went to, they won the provincials again at Neepawa, and they went into Winnipeg, and they didn't make out too well, broke about even.
Mm-hmm.
But their two flags and what they won are up in the curling rink at Souris now.
Wow.
So
Very nice.
quite an honor.
Yes, you and your family have definitely been involved. And on to the golf course. You spent many years at the golf course, not only golfing, but on and off the executive. And you started a major golf tournament there.
Yeah. How do I get into that? We used to go to Devil's Lake for a golf tournament every Labor Day, and they treated us with just great down there, and there were about 15 to 20 guys from Souris went down to that golf tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got 2 weeks' notice. Bob Belbar and myself, Matt Rabchuk, the postmaster, used to go to the Wheat Kings Labor Day tournament and in Brandon, and they came up to us and said, you know, the Wheat Kings aren't holding this. So Belbar and we went around to all the different golf courses and left posters underneath the windshield wipers of all the cars, and we had 2 weeks to put this on, and we started it similar to the Devil's Lake one, which was free golfing on Saturday. Your qualifying round was played on Sunday, and you were in the playoffs on Monday. And Bob was a great help in flighting all the different categories. And we had ladies, and we had men's, we had mixed seniors, mixed a regular. And what was the next one?
You said seniors, did you?
Senior
By
men's,
themselves? Yeah.
senior ladies, I think, yeah. And another thing that happened, golf course here,
Oh, the tournament?
yeah,
Labor Day Classic?
yeah,
That's right, it's still running to this day,
yeah.
Ferg. It is still running to this day. And you started that in 1984.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Bob thinks it was 85, but we aren't going to argue.
Yeah. That's still a tournament that's been running a very long time.
Yeah,
Also, you worked on the executive for the golf course as well, on and off through the years. You not only were on the executive as a member at large, but were you president at one time?
I was president for 3 years. Don Jackson can tell you about this. They revised the Constitution, and instead of having the same guy year after year as the president, they limited it to 3 years, 3-year chairmanship.
Okay.
But they were open for nominations every year, but I had it for the 3 years because it was restricted
Yeah.
to that.
But there's a lot of work even when you're on the executive, whether you're a member at large or whether you're a president. There's still lots you do
Yeah,
when you're volunteering out there.
yeah.
Also, I wanted to mention that you helped to start Donor's Choice here in Souris.
Yes, Donor's Choice. A party came over from Verdun and showed us the doings of how to run a Donor's Choice, and they had a constitution about that thick, and Max Weber and Heather Timischuk helped on that committee, and Max and some of the committee took it upon themselves to revise, and we sent our constitution in to whoever, and it was only about that thick. And we got word back within a year that we could hold it. Now, I was the biggest skeptical person about it, but it involved just calling on about 6 houses on Donor's Choice night, where we did the Elks Lodge, did the Heart and Stroke, and the Children's Aid Society. 2 canvases a year, and that was going to every house and knocking on the door. This saved that. You only had to go and visit about 6 houses, and that was the end of your qualifications. But everybody that had a donation or wanted a donation and wanted to be on the Donor's Choice, they had to write up in the newspaper, and they had to have somebody on their committee going. Now, Heather Timischuk and another lady and I went to Deloraine and went to Hartney, and we introduced the Donor's Choice to them. Whether they ever took it up, I'm not sure. But we went also to Boissevain, and we had a great turnout of people there, mainly because I had been involved in Boissevain when I was station agent there. And I was told that I was the biggest skeptic that I knew of, and that was a few years later. They went for it, and we were sitting at Humpty's on the perimeter of Winnipeg, and Betty and I were sitting down to a table, and this other couple came and got the next table to me, and she said, you know, the best thing you ever did, the visiting lady said, the best thing you ever did was introduce Donor's Choice to Boissevain. And I said,
Really?
oh, I'm sorry, but I don't recognize you. It's been many years. And she said, my name used to be Arva Whitfield, Ralph Whitfield's sister.
Oh, really?
And he says, Jack Fuller is my husband. Well, Jack and I coached Little League, or 14 and under team too, and we won the B side of ball. So it was an amazing thing to run into somebody and say that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Small world, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you were the chairman of the first Donor's Choice,
Yeah.
and you helped with that committee for a few years?
I guess so. I can't remember.
It's all right. We appreciate your volunteering. There's a couple more groups I want to mention that you have belonged to for a very long time or still belong to. For instance, the Legion.
I have been a member there for 42 years or so, and I was treasurer for 1 term or 2 terms, and I was also on the Sports and Entertainment Committee at certain times. And the other one is the Source Elks Lodge.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an honorary member of that lodge, and I've had 62 or 63 years in with them. I was secretary of that lodge for over 10 years, and I have an honor button for that. And I was also exalted ruler in there, you might say president,
Mm-hmm.
for 2 terms.
As well, you helped with WCG-TV
Oh,
here in Souris for 24 years.
yeah, yeah. Well, I started out, it was kind of Arnold Matiowski that got me involved with the
The WCG?
Access Channel, yeah.
Yeah.
The Elks had a TV bingo,
Mm-hmm.
and Arnold would come down to our studio and throw the button when to come on the air, and
Okay.
we'd carry on as Elks with that.
Sure.
And we talked Arnold into joining the Elks, and he talked me into joining the WCG TV Access.
Right.
And I quit in after 24 years. I had no interest in it when they went regional, and
But Arnold took over that seat
yeah,
and has been in that position ever since.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
in fact, Ferg, you recruited me onto the WCG team as well.
Which?
You recruited me onto the team as well.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
well, good.
That's right. I remember that. Now, I want to talk about something that's very near and dear to your heart. You worked with the railway for many, many years,
Yes,
and you helped to start the Railway Museum. It was you were a founding member. It was a bit of a dream or idea that came from you and a group of fellows who spent many years on the railroad. Is that correct?
yes. If you go to our website, you'll see the home page, and it tells you all about how we got started. Keith Marley was roaming around and collecting stuff for that used to be in stations and whatnot. And he lived in Manitoba. And Roy Stevenson, who I taught telegraphy to when he was a call boy in the station, in the shops, calling crews. I trained him and he became a very good telegrapher and a station agent, and he ended up being a mobile supervisor. You can read all about it in the website. Now, our website takes you to, at the top of the website, there's subheaders, and there's news, events, supporters, gallery, giggles, and stories. And when you click on one of those galleries, there's another 6 or maybe 7 subheaders show up on it. And if you go to CPR families, it's fathers and sons, or daughters and fathers that were conductors, and they worked on the railroad later on. Another good one is railway employees, and it starts out showing, I wanted to show Mr. Kahn. Mr. Kahn was one of the assistant superintendents, a very likable man. He won the military medal was taken prisoner in Dieppe raid in 1942 and spent 4 years in a concentration camp because he refused to get on the boat to leave Dieppe. He was wounded in the face, and he would not get on the boat. He had another man leave Dieppe, and he desired to stay with his troop, and they were the South Saskatchewan Regiment, and stay in prison camp, concentration camp for 4 years. His story is in there. His daughter was born in Souris, and her father died when she was 16. Her name, she added to that gallery of railway employees with pictures of Dieppe that the Germans, her dad had gotten from them. And there's a little story with each one. Now, when you go into the railway employees one, it'll show some of the Second World War. It'll show the Souris Legion. It'll show Ruth Martin's. But when you get into them, click on the first picture you see, and then it'll enlarge to the screen of the size of the screen. And then over at the side is a little arrow. Click on that arrow and it'll go to the next picture. So you can look at the pictures as long as you want. But I put hours and hours and hours in on that website. Another good one is Songs and Memories. Oh, and another one I want you to go to is Harry Casey's Story by Ferg Devins. I wrote a story about Harry Casey, the first station agent I ever had anything to do with. And also go to under stories, go to Songs and Memories. It's about third from the bottom. And Mark Cranwell helped me with that one. Tracy Ealing she started the website up for us, but we didn't have anybody with computer experience at that time. And Mark has done a wonderful job, but I must give Tracy Ealing, she charges us so much a year for the website, but it's in her name, and she helps out somewhat too. But there's songs and memories, and Mark put the YouTube in for each of the songs. I had a story for 6 different stories for about different things, and it's very interesting. And we've had to this website, as of this morning, we've had total visitors of 32,337 visitors, and the total visits this morning we had 97,463 visits
To the museum.
to the website.
To the website.
On the museum. So we get that shortly after 6 each morning from our statistics come over the emails.
Well, good.
So I put that and save a number down each day.
Right.
So
that railway museum opened to the public in 2011.
yes.
Right? But there was a few years before that you had to do a lot of groundwork, isn't it?
Keith Marley, which the homepage tells you about, he found an old piece of junk over in Nipawa. It was an old payroll car, and it used to be an old sleeping car for gangs when they were building the railroad west. And there was no towns or no banks, so they had to have a payroll car as they were building the railroads west. So we believe that sometime in the 1880s this payroll car was and it was changed, so they put 3 inches of fir lumber on the walls and the floor, so a shotgun blast would not go through the wall. So, because in the pay car was a paymaster, his clerk, and the guard, and they lived in it 24/7 because they were likely hiring and firing guys every day, and they had to pay them off.
Sure.
So that's a little story that's involved there in the website. Now, Keith Marley, they allowed him to keep that piece of junk pay car over at Nipawa for a couple of years, and we had paid for $1,600 for it, and we found out to move it was going to cost $4,000. So we had to start raffles and whatnot, and we worked. I think we brought it over and we had Chudley build a cement platform for it, foundation, and with a crawl space in it. We moved it over here in about the fall of 1908, I think, or 1998. And we started on it, scraping. Betty and Bev Somersault scraped all the old paint off of it and repainted it again, whatnot. We put the little station bay window in it to make it look like a country station. And Keith Marley got a lot of stuff for us, and he supplied a lot of stuff that's in there. It's cost me a penny or two, but we do our receipts through the town office or municipal office, and they do our bookwork and whatnot. And so they can issue a tax deductible receipt. When we get a donation, we make it out to the RM of Sewers Glenwood and put railway account down in the bottom. And we were supported very good. We've got a pretty good account built up now. So I don't have to like I got the, it cost $700 for that railway express wagon that stuck out on there.
In front of the,
I got that from the farm in Hartney.
oh, did you?
Used to be a Hartney station. So anyway, I could talk for hours about the Railroad Museum. But we have Jerry Gady that comes over every Saturday, and he works with me in pre-virus times.
Right.
We do take Gil Neufeld is very interested in it, and he in fact he had some little kiddies from the daycare in there on Monday.
Yes.
Last Monday, he got permission and whatnot, and they had to wear masks because they were not 12 years old.
Right.
And Gil has had both vaccines. All of us have. Mark Cranwell, he works at the museum, and helps a lot. And he's our computer man for our railway simulator.
Simulator, yes.
Yeah, on
That's
the
right.
diesel engine.
So the public can come in. Now, of course, with coronavirus, they need to book a time to come in. But normally, when we get back to regular life, the museum is open to the public.
We used to be open in normal times. We were open. We were open from 1 to 4.
But also you take requests.
Oh yes, we took requests, special requests.
Right.
We would not start the simulator up during public hours.
Right.
They had to have a special appointment for that.
And you have volunteers who sit at the door in normal hours, right?
Yeah.
And it's,
Jerry Gady comes over from Verdun every Saturday, and we have a thing with the kids. Jerry was a telegrapher, and the two of us work together, and he'll get names of all the kids, like school tours and whatnot, and just write Bill down and Jim and whatnot, their front names, first names, and don't tell anybody, don't say it out loud. And I sit down by the entrance, and he'll tap their name out, and I'll say Bill, and the kids turn around, how did you do that? They think it's magic. We show them the Morse code.
sure.
And what it's all about. But Jerry loves to come over. It's 45 miles from Verdun to work on Saturdays. The reason we have it 3 hours is we don't have a washroom, so
There's limitations there.
yeah. But I think the Plum has, or there's down in the park as well.
Yeah, not far away from the museum.
Yeah.
Because the museum is on that main street that travels right through Souris, right?
Yeah, it's at the bottom of the hill.
Yeah.
The caboose is behind Hillcrest, belongs to the town. It has nothing to do with us.
with the railway, but the plum is across the street from that, and then you've got the big statue of the moose,
Yeah,
right? And then the Railway Museum, and then you have the opening to Victoria Park that's just hop,
Yeah.
skip, and a jump away from
yeah,
the
yeah,
museum as well.
yeah.
Okay, well, we appreciate all of your years and the time you've spent in our community. And we congratulate you with the success of the Railway Museum. And you chose your $500 donation to go to the Railway Museum
Yes,
when you won the Honor 150 award.
yes,
And we'd like to also recognize you as a tourism ambassador. I know, Ferg, that isn't actually a title that you take on yourself,
no,
but when you're still running the website for Railway and even yourself on Facebook, you continue to promote. In fact, you even give ideas to us as WCG workers, volunteers, on how we can expand what we do
yeah,
within our community, and you promote the community, I'd say, far more often than you know, any of us on our own Facebook page, and you publicize our community very much on your Railway Museum site. And we like to thank you for that, the fact that you have taken that on without even meaning to take it on, that you, from your heart, you promote your community.
we came, the Devins family came here in 1943, and we just loved Surrey. We loved the swimming pool, used to have a diving board into the river there, and right behind where Kirkup's house was,
Right?
or it's Harold Kuiper's now.
Yes, and I think there's new campsites right near there, where that old dock used to be.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, part of the campgrounds.
Yeah, right across from the
Yeah,
playground.
yeah,
Mhm.
and
So you've been in and out of our community for many years.
yeah. Anyway, we moved here in '43, and we thought we died and gone to heaven.
Oh.
Oh,
is that right?
yeah. But I want to mention, our town ambassador, we always considered Danny Belbus as being the Surrey ambassador, because he used to take specially made handout sheets and pass them around to tourists.
Oh, is that right?
And so Danny did that. He used to leave them up at the hotel, and the hotel really loved them. The new hotel that we have. But no, and I don't know how the fund is for a chair for a bench for Danny, but they're looking after that at the municipal office.
Yes.
So anyway, I don't know.
Well, I really appreciate your time, Ferg. Is there any other stories that you'd like to tell about your connections, or about the time you spent volunteering?
I think we've covered pretty much everything, Laura.
Okay.
Thank you very much for putting me on spotlight on service.
Absolutely, thank you. And thank you for all you've done for WCG TV. We do appreciate that.
Yeah, it was fun.
Good.